Welcome, folks who are joining the recording. We're about to start our CSS introduction. Last week we went over some info on Pug. If you have missed that, or if you missed one of the sessions, check out the previous recording. But we went over going through the layout, looping, creating H2, H3, spacers, checkboxes, and counters. And so today we're going to be doing some styling. I figured this can be kind of interactive. I don't want to tell you guys how this should look. I would like to have you guys give suggestions for how you want it to look, and I will show you how to do it. Does that sound fun for you guys to actually have that type of interaction instead of me just saying, "Oh, here, you want this to be in this way"? I will show you.
That sounds really fun.
Sweet. So yeah, let's get started. So before we start, I'm going to fix the little thing on the top left with the Discord status. I'm going to add a little semi-transparent box so that it's just easier to see. Select color, alpha channel. Here we go. Let's make it like 30. Yeah, this will be good. Let's shrink. Oh, can I change the resolution of that? There we go. Put it below Discord. That's better. Let me also put both of them down lower. Actually, no, that's not going to work. This is good enough. All right, let's get started. So if you guys gotten set up, we have our Acorn tutorial. Do we have this branch 24 December 9th? Hold on. I feel like this might have been slightly different code from what I did with you guys. I'm not sure if I actually. Where did it go? Was I in a different? No, I'm here. Could one of you guys show me the code that we had from our last session? Just because I want to see how different it is.
I'm trying to find mine. I think mine disappeared somehow.
Uh-oh.
I factory reset my computer from last time, so I actually lost it too.
Oh no.
Oh god.
So you don't actually have Node or anything installed?
I should have that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So
I keep some stuff pre-installed through my Windows.
But if you guys could all use that.
Yeah, we could use this branch. We could just kind of reset to this branch because we basically did essentially the same stuff. The exact code syntax might be a little bit different, but if I recall correctly, we went to checkbox and counter, and we just we might have named the functions differently.
I think Node might have gotten taken off of my computer. Let me get.
Gotcha. Though I mean, since this is going to be interactive, if you like, we could. I know that you learn a lot better by doing like next to somebody rather than just watching. But since it is interactive, if you like, we could just proceed without. Would you prefer to wait a little bit? We could pause the recording and have you make sure you're all set up. Might be better for the learning purposes.
Yeah. I'm just gonna install Node right now.
Yeah, sure.
So
pause the recording.
if you.
Okay, we're back. I created a new branch from last session. Something weird happened where last session's code disappeared from my computer, so I just grabbed the recording and fixed this. So we can switch branches to 2025 tutorial 1 Pug. What were you saying, somebody? I heard somebody talking. I guess not.
Oh, sorry. That might have been me. My Discord froze up again.
Gotcha.
I do not know what's happening today.
Oh, geez. That is unfortunate. but hopefully you'll still be able to, I guess, see the stream sort of slowly take form.
I should be good for now. Oh, that's what it is. Something's trying to mess with me. Give me a second.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. But yeah, while we get started, I'll kind of while you figure that out, I'll give kind of the general concept of CSS. So here we just have raw HTML, and here let me actually dock this to the bottom so we can kind of take a good look at what's happening. We have raw HTML, and we have kind of like default styles for how text appears and how buttons appear. And if we actually inspect this HTML, we can see some basic, this is actually CSS. This is like, what's this style.css? Okay, yeah, we actually do have a style.css that's part of the default like Express template that we have. Like H2, for example, we have some stuff here. It says user agent style sheet. These are just, the default ways that these elements appear. And so we can actually modify it. We can change the color, we can change the size, we can change the positioning. And maybe if we work hard for like 3 years, we can finally figure out how to center a div. That's a joke because it's always hard to center a div.
Yeah.
And yeah, so again, this is going to be kind of interactive. What do we want to start with? Maybe if you like, just as a suggestion, we could start with like the background color and we can proceed from there.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Cool.
This seems nice.
What color do we want to do? Pick a color, any color.
Actually, oh my god.
All right, since you didn't say, I'm gonna say we're gonna do a really gross green until
Okay, that's fine. Sorry, I'm. It just like fully my brain like stopped working when
No
you
problem.
said you told me to choose something.
Let's do a nice cool like mint, like a nice mint green. So we could do a light theme for now. So let's break down these tags. So the way CSS works is through selectors and then styles. So these are relatively simple. Body, and then we have brackets. So body is actually an HTML element. That's just representing, this is kind of like every HTML document has a head and a body, and the body is the contents of this is the stuff that's visible. The head is kind of metadata that's not visible. And so body, when you have a selector for the body, that means just everything inside of here has this style. So in this case, we want to add our background color here. This A, for example, A is short for a link. I think it's short for anchor. And so this is just saying links will show up as blue, which is a very common style for, it's the standard basically. So they added that in the sample.
It's the basic standard for most websites.
So inside of body, let's add background color. So background color is just background dash color and colon, and then we pick whatever color we want. There's actually a bunch of like built-in, actually I think, yeah, there's actually, if I recall correctly, Alice Blue has a story behind it, where like one of the developers of the web standard, I think his daughter passed away due to, it might have been cancer or something, but basically this color was created and added to the standard like in memoriam of that person, which is pretty fun. But let's see if mint is, mint cream. It kind of looks white, but let's see what it looks like. The nice thing about VS Code is that we can actually, here we go. Yeah, this is not as green as I was expecting, but if we hit save and refresh, there we go, it's slightly different. Let's make it a little more green. So a cool thing about VS Code is that, so yeah, this mint cream is one of the standard, like you can't just make up a color and add it. It's just part of the standard was. So in here, there's actually a color picker that you can do inside the browser, and this changes live, which is pretty fun. But if you change this and then refresh the page, it doesn't get saved. only editing inside VS Code will actually change. But a cool thing about VS Code is we do still have this picker. So we could change it here, we could change it here. There's also many different ways of representing the color. So let's make it like maybe here. And you see this RGB, it changed to this. There's many different ways of representing a color. So there's RGB, there's hex codes, there's HSL, hue, saturation, lightness. HSL is usually the most human intuitive, where you can change the alpha, which is the transparency. You can change the hue. It's more intuitive. And then, but after you've done CSS for years, you can just kind of I'm gonna flex. You can kind of just guess what RGB values you probably want, and then just guess like the hex codes for it. So let's say, for example, we want kind of like a deep purple. So deep purple. Let's do slightly not super strong purple. So we'll add a little bit green to it. So purple, we want it to be dark. So the red and the blue are going to be similar. I'm going to make it a little bit more blue than red. So I'm going to do the first two letters of the hex are the red channel. So let's do 4, which is 4 out of 16, which is like 25%. And then green, I want to be, oh, 4 is, yeah. I want to be like 0.8, which is about like half of a tick. And then blue, I want to be like 60. Let's see. And then there you go. Okay, that's a little bit more saturated than I was expecting. So let's change this to like 2.0. Yeah, that's closer. And of course we can always change it here, but yeah, that was just a little, once you've done it for a long time, you can kind of just think of the color, guess the RGB, and then like kind of convert in your head to the thing. But let's go back to our nice little mint color. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of things that we can do from here. We could change the size of the headers. We could make it mobile responsive. So you see, on a very wide screen, we just have this stuff all the way on the left. And if we squeeze, it's kind of fine. But it's not responsive, which means that it doesn't change sizes of the elements depending on the screen size. This is a bit more advanced topic. So I don't know, what do you guys think? We could start simple and then move to the responsive design stuff with breakpoints and stuff like that. Or the world is your oyster. What are your thoughts? We could also work on the counters and the buttons. That one could be fun.
How about we start a little simple? I don't know about Michael and Nicole, but I'm fine if we start a little simple. I don't want to be picking for everybody here, though.
Yeah, sure. What are your thoughts?
I'm fine with whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's change the checkbox. Let's take a look at the checkbox. We can always inspect the checkbox styling. Actually, if I recall correctly, checkboxes can sometimes be a little bit difficult to style, but we can always give it a shot. So yeah, this is a type of whatchamacallit. Hold on, what's this I? And then here, let's click this again. Okay, yeah, so this stays the same. Yeah, so this is the default style sheet. This is a selector. So let's just steal this. Input type equals checkbox I. I actually don't know what the I is for, and I'm not going to pretend to know. But let's snag this selector and add some brackets. And let's take a look. So we have cursor default, appearance auto, margin. Let's try and increase the size. Let's increase the width and the height. So width. And then there are different units that you can use. You can't just put a number, it'll get confused. So we'll put a number of pixels. Let's just, since we're experimenting, let's just try and make it really big, like 60 pixels. And then height, 60 pixels. I feel like there's actually like a 50% chance of this working and 50% chance of it not working. Okay, it worked.
Oh.
So it's huge.
The comically large checkbox.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I remember? Okay, I think it's that you can change the size of the checkbox, but I think if you wanted to change the appearance of the check itself, that's what is challenging. I remember now.
Okay.
Because it just checkboxes are like if you want to have a completely customly appearing checkbox, you can actually make like a pseudo element that's not actually the checkbox that displays the exactly what you want, and then you can have it show kind of off to the side, and then you can hide the default checkbox. But let's not do that for now. Let's adjust the label. So do we want to stick with this or make it a little bit more reasonable size of checkbox?
You can make it more reasonable, probably, seeing how it's
Let's do 24
giant.
pixels. Oops, 24 pixels. 24 pixels. There we go. And also remember, like, we need a semicolon, because if we don't do that, it's gonna complain. It's gonna be like, what happened? If we hover over here and look at this selector, it'll be like, what's that? So semicolon with colon. There we go. There we go. And now if we take a look, the input element here and the label, they're not vertically aligned. So this is something that is a very common frustration. I'm actually going to experiment here because I haven't done this before, but with my knowledge of CSS, I suspect this will work. So we will figure out if it actually in fact does work. What we're going to do first is we are going to add a class to this div that's holding the checkbox, because we're going to do some special stuff to the div that's a parent of it. So inside of this div, we'll add parentheses similar to the other ones. Class equals, and let's call it checkbox dash parent. It's kind of standard for CSS to have CSS classes like just all lowercase but then dashes in between. I think it's called kebab case or something, but it's not super important. That's just kind of the usual. And now notice that this is body, this is A, this is input. When you just type a word into the CSS selector, it is interpreting that as a tag type, as in input is actually like the tag name. But if we want to detect a class, there's a special selector for that, which is dot. So dot checkbox dash parent. And that's the selector for any div, any item with the class equals checkbox parent. And now, just as a little test to see if it works, let's just change it like color red. This is the change of the text color, just as a little like demonstration. Here we go. So all of our checkboxes, color's red, but that's not what we want. We are going to add, we're going to make this a flex box. So let's change this to display flex. Let's refresh. Okay, so nothing broke. That's good. Let's double check. Yeah. So Flexbox is a it's not new. It's I don't know, like the mid 2010s as a way to kind of dynamically change elements and to have them go in rows and columns and whatnot. I unfortunately can't give a very good explanation of how they work. I kind of just have a rudimentary understanding. But actually here, let's take a look and see if we're able to get the behavior we want with this nice little editor here in Chrome. So flex direction, because we want our elements to appear next to each other, because I'm assuming we want the label and the checkbox to be in line with each other, we're going to have flex direction row, which, yeah, okay, yeah, these are the options. So flex direction row, which is the default, because if we do columns, they're going to appear on top of each other, see? And then row reverse, for example, will actually make them the checkbox appear like that. So if you want to do something crazy, we could actually do this if you like to have some fun. But we can always change it whenever we want. So here, and then flex wrap. So the flex wrap doesn't matter right now because I don't believe we expect the label to extend all the way out to the end of the screen. But let's actually demonstrate no wrap. We'll just see what happens as we decrease the size of the screen. See, so the checkbox and the did they entirely leave starting zone are staying in the same row. But I believe that if we change this to wrap, then I believe that if we decrease the width of this, no, come on, we want to, yeah, here we go. So when it runs out of room, it actually, they change their line, you see? So when it wraps, basically that's like kind of, if you want things to dynamically change depending on the screen width, that's one option where they'll just wrap around. But right now I believe we'll want no wrap because we kind of want our checkbox to go next to the label.
Okay.
And here's the magic. Align content and align items. I don't remember what the difference between align content and align align is, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to look this up. Difference between align and justify. One of them is along the axis and one of them's against the axis, but again, no shame in looking things up.
Line should be vertical.
Between and around color. Okay. Justify content is how the browser distributes space between and around content items along the main axis, which I believe would be aligning along here. So align content center or justify content center. Oh man. Okay. So yeah, in this example, justify content is justifying, so this is basically centering it horizontally because we are in flex direction row. But if we do flex direction column and we change this, actually it's unfortunately not behaving the way we want. Let's take a look at align items. There we go. Align content versus align items. You know what? No shame in looking things up. Align content and align items.
The repository folder from last session. I just found that folder from last session.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, hold on. The thing that we got correct, like align items, is what actually centered the way we wanted, I believe. So, wait, hold on. Yeah, align items. So yeah, align items aligns the items inside the flex container along the cross axis. And then align content is from multi-line. Okay. So yeah, so basically justify content versus align items is what we want, but then align content is not related. So yeah, basically this is what you get when programmers name things, because justify content and align items are like comparative, whereas align content is different. So you'd guess that align content and justify content are like comparing apples, but no, it's these two are comparing apples. This one's an orange. So it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so right now, you know, since I made this right to left just for fun, we can also go back to normal if we like. We can also, would you guys like to keep things all centered like we do in Scoutradioz, or do you want to do something fun, something different? Up to you guys.
Should we keep it centered? Wait, give me a second. Let me think real quick. I'm implementing some code into the CSS now.
Oh, great. Very good, very good.
But Sure, we can keep it all centered.
Cool. So yeah, there we go. Justify content center, and then we're centered. Now, of course, that only is the case for the checkbox because we are purposefully creating our CSS around this checkbox, but we will be adding styling to all of them. But yeah, so what we can do now is checkbox parent. Since this is all in the browser, we'll actually have to copy all of this code and then put it in here just so that we don't lose it before we refresh the page. Oh crap, hold on. There we go. Oh my goodness, hold on. Is that, wait. Oh yeah, no, that is what we want. It's just being weird with this semicolon. There we go. Now if we refresh, let me show up. What we can also do actually is do a flex box for all of the items here in the scouting form. This is not the CSS that we have in Scoutradioz, but this is a slightly more modern technique. So what we could actually do is wrap this entire form in a div and then add some styling there. And so we don't actually have to have justify content center and checkbox parent. So what we can do here is we can make a div, call it, I don't know, form parent. And we're going to highlight all this stuff down here, except for the script, tab it in one. And now nothing will change, but we have the form parent class here. So let's see what happens if we center everything. Let's attempt to center everything here. So dot form parent display flex, because we want it to be a flex box. However, instead of flex direction row or row reverse, actually in this case, since we centered it, the row and row reverse doesn't. Actually, that just changes whether the checkbox is on the left or the right. So we can change that as much as we want. Instead of row, we're going to make it column. So flex direction column. And if we refresh, I expect nothing to change. There we go. Very little change. We had a little bit of padding differences. Actually, here, I'm gonna see what. Here, let's just kind of toggle back and forth between. So it looks like there's a little bit of gap between these items. It appears that the horizontal rules are not showing up. So we'll have to figure out what's going on there. Let's see. So the H3s, the H2s have extra padding here. Whoa. Oh, hold on. Oh, I see. It's the welcome to scouting form here. Yeah, if you see, there's a little bit of extra space before this header element. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it looks like, yeah. So I believe I can explain what's happening here. When these things are in a flex box, the way that margins work is a little bit different. If we disable this right now and then we hover over, you see the margin. So this orange is the margin in between these elements, the P and the H3, for example. And by default, without flexbox, the margin actually gets shared when there's multiple things with margin. However, in different types, because there's different like modes that elements can be in, and flex is just one of them. And it appears that in flex mode, the margin is not shared and it becomes extra things. So right now, it doesn't really affect what we're doing, and we can always adjust our stylings later. So we can do whatever we want. We can continue. Yeah, so let's actually add some centering since we brought that up. So inside of the form parent, let's add the centering. So instead of so if you recall, while we were in flex direction row for this checkbox parent, we had to do justify content center because it's kind of like perpendicular to the axis. Or hold on, flex is cross axis. Yeah, okay. But while we're in column mode, I expect that align items center. Yeah, there we go. Now it's centered. Now let's just for kicks, let's take a look at the align content. Yeah, okay, that does nothing. So line items, there we go. So we can just update that in our code. And now we can actually delete this line, justify content center, because we don't need that anymore. Boop. Now it's all centered.
Damn.
Now, here's a suggestion that we can try and implement. The plus and minus buttons. Basic. Actually, will that work? Yeah, I think so. So if we take a look, like depending on the length of the label, I'm looking at these at the labels here. Like depending on the length of it, like these guys are not horizontally aligned. You see?
Oh yeah.
So if you like, we can kind of workshop a way to make them aligned and make it actually like show up like a grid. You want to give that a try?
Yeah, let's give that a try.
Cool. So this would be by using, instead of Flexbox, we'll be trying to use CSS Grid. And Grid is newer than Flexbox. And how I believe this will work, again, I'm not super experienced with Grid, so we'll be learning as we go. Basically, I'm going to attempt to make it so that we'll have, let's see how many columns, 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, because we have label, this thing, and then the minus and plus buttons. But since we have multiple elements, I believe we can make it so that these headers span across all 4 columns. And this one may be like, the label will be the first 3, and then this one would be the last one. Let me actually take a quick look and double check if that's actually possible. Not sub-row, hold on. Yeah. Just kind of a quick grid versus flexbox, and columns. Grid, inline grid, grid rows, grid gaps. This is also a nice one. You can, like, when you're in a grid, you could just tell something to be completely centered, and it's just completely centered. And with gaps, you can create gaps for everything. But I want to see if we can grid row, grid column start. Yes. You can tell things to start and end on specific columns, and that is what we want. All right. So let's give this a shot. Display grid. Flex direction column. No, we can get rid of that. Actually, I think we can keep the align. We'll use the. Let's see if. Let's just see what happens right here. Okay. Yeah. We'll have to figure out the correct way of aligning. What's up?
No. I just noticed how it shot the starting zone to the other side of the page.
Yes. So that's because while playing around, I created this to be flex direction row reverse, which made it right to left. But if we like, we can change it back to standard, and then we can keep it not special.
I think it's funnier if it's special.
Yep. Here, let's undo that. Let's keep that. Cool. Yeah. So all the other checkboxes are here. So display grid. So this didn't actually center. So let's check align item center, justify content, align content, justify items. There we go. Justify items is how we do it with grid. Okay. So now these are centered. Actually, stretch. What's that do? Ooh. We might want to take a look at that in a bit. But our goal right now is to make these labels. These labels all inline, and the plus and minus buttons inline. So we'll see what we can do. So first step, let's create a counter class. So div class equals counter. No, counter, what was it? Counter parent. And let's add a class to all of these so that we can easily reference them. So class equals counter label. Actually, here I'll use this as an option to do a little CSS selection practice. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add a class just to the button, and I will explain why. Class equals counter. Let's see, minus button. Plus button. So we can start with counter parent. We can do some stuff here, but how do we get the label that's inside of the counter parent? Well, we can first grab counter parent, and then if we do a space and then label, this is a selector for any labels that are inside of a checkbox parent class. And in this case, we only have one label, so this will actually refer to that label. So we can, I don't know, let's say color red, for example. It's a good, easy one. Now what changed? Why didn't this work? Counter parent, label. Oh, checkbox parent, my bad. There we go. That explains it. Perfect. Also, I had forgotten to copy the display grid, so I believe it was justify items center. That's what we did to make it. There we go. Cool. So now we're going to attempt to make these land in the grid. Let's see. I think I know what we want. Display contents. What happens here? I think they're gonna. There we go. So, and then here's what we're gonna do. First, we want to in this grid, we have to actually say how many columns and how many rows we have. So I believe grid template columns, and how does this work? It's like auto. Yeah, there we go. So basically, in this case, we are making 3 columns, and just auto just is like, okay, auto size all of these items, and we can change this, but right now we want. Actually, what do we want? Because we have here. Let me just temporarily disable that, and check counter parent. Let's disable this for now. We could, honestly, I'm thinking, because this number, it can be a lot smaller. So we could change this, but you know what? For now, let's actually just make each of them in their own column. We can change the size later. Let's keep it kind of a little simple. So auto. We'll make 4 columns. Now this is a mess, but we'll start cleaning it up soon. So now we're basically making it so that there are 4 columns in all of these guys. Now let's copy this code, or we can just type it out. Let's type it out. Form parent. Grid, template columns, auto. Actually, let's see. I didn't call max content. Yeah, okay. Now what we're going to do is make it so that all of the other elements like H2, H3, horizontal rows, we'll have to fix that, span a full, like all 4 columns. So for all of these elements that we want to span the entire columns, let's just make one rule for multiple selectors. So in this case, H2, comma, H3, comma, HR. Now this is basically applying styles to multiple selectors. And I believe, let's see, what was it? Grid column start and grid column end. Or we can do it one. Yeah, here we go. What is this? Start in column 1 and span 2 columns. Yeah, there we go. So grid column, start in column 1 and then span 4. Theoretically, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. It's a little ugly, but we're getting somewhere. So now we have the header here. The headers are all on the right columns, but then of course we'll want to kind of fiddle with the positioning and the sizes of the columns to kind of make it a little bit better. So let's see. What do you think? Should we maybe increase the size of the first column and then squeeze the buttons together, perhaps?
Yeah, squeezing the buttons together because it's kind of far apart on it. Like the two buttons are incredibly far apart.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Maybe squeezing them together more than increasing the column size.
Cool.
That seems nice.
And also something that the Scoutradioz form does is we actually have the number in between the buttons, so we can also do that.
Yeah.
And that is actually as simple as you see this input type equals number. We just delete that row and then place it underneath in between the two buttons. And if we refresh, boop, now it's between.
Oh. That is incredibly simple.
Yeah. Because basically CSS and HTML work together. And the HTML defines the structure. And if we are just structuring one of them in front of the other, then that's it. Another thing we could do, I believe, the way Scoutradioz does it, if you guys want to do it as well, the minus button's all the way on the left, and I believe it's button and then label and then number and then button. So, do we want to keep it this way or do something special?
That is how Scoutradioz does it.
Yeah.
We could keep it that way. I'm up for either.
Cool. So let's do that then. All right. So yeah. So these guys span an entire column. Oh, here. So something is a little bit borked because we have these paragraphs are not. They're whatchamacallit, they're not spanning 4 columns, so then spanning 1 column and then the next one and the next one, and it's a little bit borked. So we'll want to add P over here, have the little P on our code. And we'll also want to fix these guys. Yeah, display contents, or was it checkbox parent? Display flex. Right, we have a checkbox parent, so we also want these to span 4 columns. So also add dot checkbox parent.
I think I did something wrong somewhere where it's not going. Sorry, the plus and minus buttons are still staying on the same side.
Here, did you move the minus button in the pug? Did you move the minus button to the top, and then label, and then input, and then button?
That would fix it. Thank you.
No problem. Alrighty. Let's see. What can we do here? So let's increase the size of the plus and minus buttons so that they're a little bit more clickable. So
Yeah.
You know what, here, so there's a really cool thing in CSS where you can actually set variables and then you can reference variables later down the line. So instead of setting the width and height of the buttons separately, let's create a variable to determine the size. I mean, actually just change the variable to change all the references. So down here, actually, can we... Are we able to do? Okay, no, we okay. So we aren't actually able to set variables outside of a selector. So what's very common is we go way up to the top and then do :root. Wait, is it only 1 colon? Hold on. 1 colon, and this is basically like, I don't know, the document root or whatever. And that's just where you set your global variables. So let's just the way to declare variables is with 2 dashes. Let's call it button size. Let's do like 36 pixels. Then let's do the same with, let's first do the checkbox. So instead of hard coding the width and height, we just do width, and then the way to reference a variable is you use the keyword var, parentheses, and then type the variable name. Let's do that here. Here we go. Refresh. Now it's changed. And if we hover over, take a look. Here it just has the variable, but then if you click on it, it actually shows you the size. Also, I just realized I haven't really paused at all, so let's pause and just make sure things are being absorbed. Any questions, or because we have been moving kind of fast, so let's pause for a moment to see how you guys are doing. If we're moving too fast, or if you have any questions or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm just following along with your code. I'll watch over the video and then start implementing it and learning at my own pace for that. But I'm seeing how it should all work. So if mine messes up, I'll just ask a question some other time.
Cool, that makes sense. How about you, Michael? You good?
Yeah, should be good.
Nice, cool. So let's keep going. Yeah, let's add the buttons. So go here. We already made a minus button and a plus button class. So let's use, there's many ways of doing it, but let's be a bit explicit. So we want to affect the minus button class inside of counter parent. So dot counter parent space minus button. So excuse me, dot minus button. And then if we want to also affect the plus button, we do a comma, dot counter parent space dot plus button.
Yeah, dot plus button, and then you do the width and the height with the variable, correct?
Very good, very good. So we copy that, paste. Now if we refresh, boom, there we are.
Yeah.
And if we want, because this minus is kind of hard to see, we could actually increase the text size there. For the time being, let's just increase both of them. So I never actually showed you the font size, but font dash size, and then we could do a number of pixels. We could do, there's many different units, but for the time being, let's just do pixels, like that, 20 pixels. See how that is? That's a little bit better. Let's just see, yeah. Now, yeah, I think 30 pixels is pretty good, but here's a little issue. Just because of the font that we're using, the dash is actually a little bit lower than the center, even though the plus button is kind of centered. So we'll have to do something special for this minus button. So let's copy the font size 30 pixels. We're going to have to do a special selector for just the minus button. Yeah, I mean, if so Scoutradioz actually uses a nice superset of CSS called less, which makes it a little bit easier, because like when you're doing all these multiple selectors, it's not that great. If you're using less, instead of doing all these separately, we just can do like ampersand dot minus button, ampersand dot plus button, and then we can do this stuff in here, but we can't do that right now because we're doing raw CSS, unfortunately. Wanted to mention that. So less is actually compiled into CSS, and it compiles into this kind of stuff. Counterpart minus button. Let's make the text go up a little bit. So there's a little there's a trick you can always do to make a top margin negative. So let's just experiment here before we put it into code. So margin dash top, say like negative 10 pixels. Oh, that's not what we wanted, because that actually moved the button up, you see? That was an accident. So let's change that. Let's try padding top, negative 10 pixels. What? Negative 1 pixel. Oh, excuse me. It looks like that's actually not allowed, negative padding. Actually, that kind of makes sense. So how we can do line height? Let's try line height. Yeah, here, see, oh, it's actually not really doing anything. It's being a little bit weird. Now, let me think for a second. How do we actually get this, the text inside the button to go up a bit? Because it's inside of here. Appearance auto, line height, text transform. Ooh, text transform. That's a thing I haven't seen before. Oh, that's just uppercase, lowercase. Never mind. I was thinking that would be something really cool. Text indent, text shadow, padding block, padding inline, border width, border style. Let's think for a moment. How can we affect this? Because we inside of the button. You know what? We might be able to actually make a span inside of this button. So span is a nice element that's basically like you can kind of do some custom stuff to text that's inside of it. Oh, wait, why did that get smaller? Wait, hold on, what? Wait. Oh, I didn't save. That's why. That's why. There we go. So, not explaining this very well. Spans are really good if you have a long line of text and you want to style a certain part of it differently. So here, as an example, let's give an example up here. Welcome to title. So if we wanted to, for example, make scouting form bold, we take this, you can actually have inline HTML inside a pug, which is nice. So let's just make a span here. And we can affect some styling of this text outside of the rest of it. So let's just do inline style for this example. Style equals font weight bold. Fresh. And now this is bold. So that's kind of the idea. You can do some CSS to some text as a sub child of this. So let's go back here.
That's an interesting issue. Michael sent something in the voice chat.
Oh, any clue what's messed up here? No score in speaker, minus plus. Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know what it is. You probably have your button size smaller than the font size. So here, as this example, if I change my text size to like 300 pixels, there we go. It's just way out of it because we're independently controlling the button size and the font size.
Oh.
Don't apologize. Oh crap! I did control. What happened? Oh, I just closed a tab. Here we go. Don't apologize. You're good. Alrighty. So now that we have a span here, we can affect it. So we could add a class, but like it's fine. We can do a selector, just the span inside of here, and let's try the margin trick again. It might not work, but let's try margin top minus 10 pixels. That didn't work. Okay, because spans are actually how do I explain this? There are different. Yeah, I mentioned there's different display modes. Spans are inline, which means that they actually don't respect margin. But what we could do is do position relative, and now what we can actually do is just change a number of pixels where, like, basically take where it's supposed to be and then just change where it is. So top minus 10 pixels. This should work. There we go. That's a bit too much. So let's just use arrow keys to adjust. There we go. 3 pixels looks good. Now, of course, this is not like, whatever. Oh shit! What was that? Oh, excuse me. It's just I just did an auto format, but it messed with that. Anyways, so what I was trying to say before I just completely flubbed was that Right. Our width and height of the button is controlled by a variable, but this text plus or minus is not. So if we actually modify the size of the variable, it's actually gonna be okay. It's kind of centered, but it's not perfect. But we can kind of leave it for the time being. Actually, I'm wondering why this is actually the size increased for this guy. That's kind of interesting. I'm not really sure how this input increased in size because we didn't actually tell it to. Padding. Let's just pretend it was intentional. Now, let's take a look. The label here is not actually centered vertically, but I think this might actually be controllable by align items. Let's see. Nope. Align items. Aha! There we go. Align item center, because the justify item center centered it vertically, and then align item center. See, grid is actually makes a little bit more sense. Align item center will align it vertically. I'm curious about what happens here. Okay, not really much of a difference here. And then this guy, also not much difference. Okay. Yeah, here. So let's add this here. Align item center to the form parent. Align item center. And also, we can probably get away with not actually doing this flex box for the checkbox parent. We can probably just take advantage of the grid. So let's just see what happens if we just disable this stuff here. Okay, so okay, what's going on? So the reason why, yeah, I'm remembering now. I did this counter parent display contents without really explaining it. What's happening here is that the grid is affecting all of its direct children. So h2 div, h3 div, p, h3 div, etc. But then within the children, the grid is no longer taking effect. It's just an item. And so our fancy grid positioning is no longer taking effect because it's just a child element and it can do its other stuff. What I did here for counter parent display contents just basically means, hey, just don't worry about me. Forget I'm here. Pretend like all of these elements are actually direct children of you. So, this could be used for organization purposes. So we have two things we could do to actually take advantage of the fancy grid. One, we could actually get rid of the checkbox parent and then tab this out. And I'm pretty sure this will actually, yeah, it's going to do something nice. Or what we could do is what I did for the counter, which is just display contents. So there's always a million different ways to do certain things with CSS. Let me pause because I just gave kind of a brain dump explanation. Did that make sense to you guys, or do you need kind of clarification?
Wait, I would like a little bit of clarification.
Sure. Was there anything in particular that kind of you don't understand, or should I try and re-explain it in a way that's easier to understand? Re-explain the whole thing.
I would say re-explain a little bit. I kind of...
Okay, sure. So
processing didn't really function fully for me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thanks for coming, Michael. Yeah, thanks for coming, and hope to see you for another one. Yep. Honestly, the display contents is a bit of an advanced thing. Let's see if I explain it in a understandable way. I'm just thinking because the way that I explained it, I don't want to just repeat what I said because that's silly. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of a way to rephrase it. But yeah, like the display grid, yeah, here. So all of these different display modes, there's grid, there's block, there's other stuff. Well, actually, okay. The display mode, inline, and block, those are the really, really old ones. Those just say, those just determine how the items themselves are formed. Grid and Flexbox were actually kind of new, where they actually say, hey, I'm going to determine where my children are located. So if you recall, the checkbox parent, before I had, I still have it, or did I disable it? Oh yeah, what? Oh yeah, here we go. Here we had display flex, and by doing that, we can actually have some extra properties to decide dynamically how the children are positioned. And so it's basically directly affecting its children, but so it's putting these in different spots.
Okay.
And the grid is a similar way, where it just takes a look at all of its children just to see what it's doing, and then it goes, okay, I have an H2, I have a div, I have H3, all of these, and I'm going to move you all according to your position in the grid. But then for each of the children, it goes, okay, I've put you here. You decide where you go. Like, you decide how you're organized. So in this case, when I hid the display contents, these guys break because we actually want these buttons to actually participate in the grid. So to get them to participate in the grid, I could actually remove this, tab these out, and now the buttons are participating in the grid because they're direct children of the grid. But since I actually commented out this counter parent, we lost all this stuff. So for organizational purposes, it can theoretically be nice to have this div so it's kind of organized nice. But we can just say, hey, let's don't think I'm here, just here. These counters are actually part of the grid. So just pretend I'm not here. I want my children to play ball with your grid and all of my siblings, and so here you goes in this column, you go in that column, you go in that column.
Okay.
Did that explanation make a little bit more sense?
Yeah.
Oh,
did.
excellent. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad that worked. Yeah. So yeah, we've got these guys. Oh, these are a bit of a mess. What's happening here? Right. So, the checkboxes, those are technically only taking up 2 columns. And so down here, it's like 2 columns here. And then there's 2 more columns here. And then it's all messed up.
Yeah.
So what we can do here is we could just tell, maybe, for example, if you want, we could just make the label take up the rest of the 3 columns. That could be a pretty simple solution. Want to do that?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Now, where are we? Checkbox parent. Here we go. So now we just want to add the label. So a selector for a label inside the checkbox parent. Or actually, also we can kind of we can actually remove all of this because the checkbox parent is display content. So this is all made moot. So we remove that. Checkbox parent space label. And then I believe grid column. So we start on column 2 and then we span 3. There we go. And it's gonna, oh, no, that's interesting. These moved. I wonder why. Hold on, let's
That
comment
is
this
odd.
out and see.
Is that somehow linked to the checkboxes?
So let's see. I just remembered Firefox actually has a really, I heard it has a really, really good grid visualizer and editor. So let's take a look here. Let's see if Firefox can give us some insight on what the heck happened. Dock to the bottom. Yeah, let's take a look here. So let's go to the inspector. We'll go to, we're just going to toggle on and off that thing that I changed. What did I change? Checkbox parent? No. Label. Here we go. Okay, so this is affecting things. Let's see why. Let's figure out why. What's going on here? So let's just double check to see what happens. Let's take a look at this grid. Is there how do we view it? Ooh, here we go. Here's something cool. So let's see. Ooh, what's this? Display not. Ooh, now I know why people are saying, okay, display area names. What's that? Ooh.
It's individually labeling out every single section. That's very nice.
Ooh, and then is this staying? Ooh, okay. Now I see why people are. Ooh, nice. Okay. So let's go back to the checkbox parent or the checkbox label, and let's just see what happens to the grids. Ooh, okay. So what's happening here is it's actually changing the size of each column, probably just because of just some kind of because if you remember, we actually just made the columns auto-sized. And there's actually a little hover text explaining something. Yeah. Wait, what? Hold on. There we go. As a maximum identical to max content, as a minimum represents the largest minimum size as specified by min width and min height of the grid items occupied. Okay, so this is kind of a bit of word salad, but we can just kind of boil it down to it's doing some stuff, because I gotta be honest, I don't fully know what it's doing, but it's doing some stuff to decide the width of it. Probably based on the content of the grid. Like for example, this one, other comments and notes, is actually just that we also have to add a special case for this guy. So it's probably doing something where, actually, hang on, let me think. So checkbox parent label, disable that. Yeah, here. So in this case, this is actually taking up a lot of space because the second column, is containing a lot of text, especially for these guys. But in this case, I guess it can slightly more evenly spread out the columns. That's my best guess as to what's happening. But we could actually we can make these exactly evenly spaced. Don't know the exact way to do it, but grid evenly. Oh yeah, there's a repeat function. Yeah. Here. So what's that? Combination of one fraction is distribution of available space that breaks on by default it's not overflowing just the column with accordingly. That's why one fraction is destroyed for auto. Interesting. Okay. You don't worry about this explanation. Let's just copy. So grid template columns, and let's just comment this out. Grid template columns. Repeat for min max 0 1 fractional unit. That's actually, I believe this is a unit that's actually new to grid. Here we go. Now they're evenly spaced. Yeah. And I mean, if we want, we could also kind of change things. We can make the label kind of show up centered here and add something hidden here. But we are going on about an hour and a half. Do you feel like maybe just finishing up some of the last couple elements and wrapping up, or do you feel like you'd like to keep going?
Maybe finishing up the last few elements, since it is only me here now.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah,
and we can probably pull this to a later time, or to the next session, or do something completely new the next section. I don't really know.
So yeah, let's add the other comments and notes. So Now let's see, what do we want to do? We probably want the text field to be pretty big. What we could do is actually just make the text field in a span across the two columns and then make the label on the left. It's not really standard across the other ones, but it doesn't really, we're not making something super pretty. We're kind of demonstrating what we can do with CSS. You want to do that?
Sure. Yeah,
Cool.
that sounds good.
Cool. So other comments and notes. So we have, let's see, where is it? Text block. So we have a div here. So let's do the same thing as we did before. So class equals, what's it called? Text block parent. And let's remember to add this to display contents because we just want it to kind of be transparent and allow the other transparent because it's a parent. Anyways, text block parent. There we go. Display contents. And now they're going to start doing something with the grid. Text block dash parent. Text block dash parent. Why is it still? Oh, there we go. I forgot a comma. So basically this was an incorrect selector. It's looking for a text block parent that's a child of checkbox parent. So comma.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. And now all we have to do is make this span across two columns. So let's do that. Let's just, this is not very well organized, but this is fine. Text block parent. And then what's here we go, it's a text area. So we just space text area. And now we're going to do the same thing as before with the grid column. So grid column, but we want to start at 2 and then span 2 because we want it to span across these two guys. There we go. And now I think there's a way to tell it to be kind of greedy to make it increase its size. Let's think about this. Let's see. CSS grid stretch size. Let's see. Because I'm not really sure. Stretch its height and width to fill container. Oh right, viewport. Oh right. There's fractional units. Remember that.
Oh.
So while we're in the grid, we have fractional units. So I believe we can actually just say make the width 2 fractional units because it's depending on the number of columns. So let's actually just see. Where were we? Yeah, let's just give it a shot. Width. This is new to me.
It's completely fine.
Oh, that didn't work. Now why didn't that work? Let's see.
That centered the box. But
I guess the fractional units only work at the grid template columns.
Yeah.
Let's see about width. Let's try width 100%. This might break. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. 100% of the available width that it had. Yeah, there we go. So we got. Do we want to do anything else before we wrap up, or do you feel like this is a good time to finish up?
Maybe center the did they leave the starting zone?
Yeah, sure.
Because
that makes a lot of sense.
That's kind of just there.
Yeah. Okay. So now, because right now we have the label spanning 3, but I believe if we make it span 2, it might mess with. Okay, so it just so happens to. Oh no, yeah, it does because this guy is.
Oh, it does do that. Okay.
So there might be a better way to do this, but I know a hack. So we go to, where are we? Label check. Go on to span 3, span 2. And we, here we go. Let's refresh to make sure we got what we have. We could just add a dummy element to just fill here. Basically here. So we have a checkbox. Where are we? So we have 2 items. So this one is taking up 1 column. This one's taking up 2 columns. So we could, if we want, just add a div that's empty. And boom. By default, it's just an empty div, and it just here we go.
Takes up that empty space completely.
Exactly. Yeah. There might be a fancier way to do it, but if it works, it works. And you can just add a little element saying, "Hey, since label is taking up 2 columns, and dummy element." Again, there might be a better way to do it, but we're wrapping up. So
Yeah.
yeah. So now we have here. Let's actually also change the text color back, so we can just comment that out. And there we go. Now we have kind of a prettier scouting form.
Yep.
Any questions before we wrap up?
No, not really. I understood a lot of that.
Great.
Yep.
Glad to hear.
Thank you for this. This was actually really helpful.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that it was helpful. I'm glad.
It's a lot better than me learning how to code JOS and by myself with no assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. Like having kind of, especially, I mean, firstly having direction from somebody who has some more experience, but then also like having a semi-direct application to like kind of what the context is for what you want to do it for, rather than like most CSS tutorials are teaching you how to make like columns and like news sites, for example. That's usually the default, not scouting form. So.
Yep.
Yeah. And so something I would like to do is kind of have some sessions where, for example, if I'm working on a more complex topic and I'm just kind of like chilling and just sharing my screen and potentially explaining if anybody's watching, which, oh, never mind. I was going to say I might do, but I just realized that I fixed the issue that I had to fix, so I don't really have to do it tonight. That's actually what I was doing a couple days ago. But then also... go on.
Speaking of that, a couple days ago, I would have joined if I saw the message. I was just like busy working on something.
Oh yeah, no
sadly.
But yeah, and if anytime I do that, maybe I'll ping the tutorial sessions and then just chill there. And then what was I going to say? Yeah. And additionally, what I'd like to do is, after we've gotten some people up to speed on kind of the basics, we could kind of do like workshop together on some of the simple Scoutradioz issues that are like good first issue, and I just kind of watch you guys do it and kind of help and guide when necessary, but not actually be the one to I could take a more direct tell you what to do, but I like to kind of try and guide you toward the answer without giving the answer, because that's what I used to do, and I feel bad about it. Like, for example, there was one student we had in, I think, 2019, and I was quote unquote helping him add a feature. I think it was adding the robot pictures, or adding them to a team list, but I was just telling him what code to write, and that was not helpful at all. So doing my best to guide rather than tell. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. That sounds really nice and a fun way to learn.
Yeah. So hope that that goes well. Anyways, yeah, so I won't keep you too long. Have a wonderful night.
You too.
Thanks. Take care. And to the recording, you guys have a good night, and we'll be available on the Scoutradioz Discord for any questions. Hope you enjoy the recording.
Yep.
Peace.